Hello, everyone, and welcome to Core Talks. I'm Denise Posnak, Gaffney, and I am here live from New York City. Joining with me is Jennifer Bronsnick. I worked with Jen many years ago. We met at a Mommy Bites event. We are both mommies, we are both entrepreneurs, and we are both very, very passionate about mental and physical wellness. And so in this month of May, where I've focused on motherhood, how to be a good mother to yourself, period. How to be a good mom if you are a mom, how to keep it all together and be good to yourself while you're mothering. And Jennifer is here today to give us insight on resiliency, because really it's sort of the core of everything. If you're not connected and not able to be resilient, you fall down and you stay down longer. So I'm so excited to talk with her today about this. I'm going to give you, hey, Jen, you're here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to reconnect. And we're both girl mommies. I have 3 daughters. So
you are girl mommies, which is a whole other requirement for resiliency, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I hear as they get older, my girls too, so I haven't had to deal with that yet. But okay, so I'm going to give you her little bio and then she can add to it. So Jen has a master's in social work. She is the CEO of the Mindful Family, and she's a sought after expert in the treatment and prevention of anxiety and burnout. She's on a mission to empower mothers to learn the skills needed to bounce back from any of life's setbacks and stress. She's a mother of 3, as she said, girls, author of 3 books on healing from burnout and thriving in motherhood. So that's awesome, Jen. I so want to hear about your books. So we're going to just dive in. Jen, do you have anything? Can you tell us a little bit about the Mindful Family? I'm curious about that. I don't know too much.
Sure. Yeah. So I offer both one-on-one support as well as group programming and workshops, events, all in the mission to support moms to thrive. So my membership is called Thriving Mama Society.
I love that. Thriving. Yeah. It's so different from surviving. I think most of us feel like we're surviving mamas. And I love that, just even in the languaging, thriving mamas. And so I want to know how you got interested in resiliency as a theme for your focus, your research, what you're doing with that.
Yeah, well, I think you said it perfectly, that resiliency is everything, and that it's not about what happens in your life. It's the ability to bounce back from that. So, whether that for me, it was postpartum anxiety and depression, having seizures as a kid, being bullied, these things that we all have, these little traumas that happen in our life. Some of us have, bigger traumas. But all of that it's all about resiliency. And so having the belief in yourself, that inner strength where it's a practice, it's a journey. It's not I'm resilient. Like, this is it. We're resilient until the next thing comes that forces us to be more resilient. Does that make sense?
That I totally love that. Yeah, I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that, just I think definition. And I want to say hey to Jen. Morris is here. Melissa, Miranda, hey. I think we both know both of them. We're saying hi. So yeah, like if you could give a definition of resiliency, maybe so we could, like if there was a resiliency quiz, right? And I took the quiz, like how do I know if I'm, what's the definition of resiliency and like what makes me resilient?
Right. So actually I do have a quiz for that. You go on my website, which is, it's really more of a burnout quiz. But what I like to know is, do I know how to navigate fear and my feelings? Do I know how to make good decisions? Do I know how to be my authentic self, not the self that other people expect of me? Do I know how to balance, to the best of my ability, work and play? Do I feel grateful? Do I trust in a divine plan? Do I take actions outside of my comfort zone, even though they scare the crap out of me? And I also look to, am I curious? Am I open? Those are some of the, sort of these main foundations, let's say, that we want to build when we're talking about building resiliency. It's not just like resiliency. It's these, little pieces of resiliency that we, every day kind of work on.
I love that. I guess that is my next question. Hey, Amanda Berlin's here too. Woo-hoo.
Hi, Amanda.
Yay. So when I was doing some Googling on the topic, and actually the topic came up for me years ago. I think it was about maybe almost 10 years ago. A friend of mine was doing her PhD in educational psychology. And she was talking about resiliency as a theme, this like new area of research that people were, and she worked with children, and I was online. I kind of just popped in, I don't even know what maybe definition of resiliency. And there's a lot of work with how to create the right conditions for a child to grow resilient, so that you are, by the time you leave home, you are resilient, right? So there's this I'm resilient or I'm not. And so that's my question. You're actually sort of answering it, but if you can let us know, maybe you can talk about the childhood thing, and then what we can do as an adult if we didn't learn that as a child, because obviously it's not our fault if we didn't learn it as a child, right?
Yeah. So I think what you're talking about, it sounds like, is growth mindset, which is the work of Carol Dweck. And Carol's been amazing, Dr. Dweck, at, building this conversation around, we don't praise kids anymore, right? We notice their achievements, and we don't take responsibility for their achievements. We say, wow, you really, what are you coloring? We have this curious stance towards parenting versus you're such a good kid. Because what we found is that language actually stops kids from being motivated to do it for themselves, for their own internal sense of achievement versus, oh, I do it because my parents are going to give me a pat on the back, and that pat on the back feels good. We all like a spotlight on us. And so it's just a change in the dialogue. Most of our parents, especially, around my age, we weren't parented like that. We did get the good kid, good job, that type of, modeling. And so, for adults, there is hope. We can all, that's the beauty of a growth mindset, is that we can all grow. We all get opportunities every single day to be more resilient. And to, the way that I sort of look at it, it's having a challenge show up and looking at it not as so much of a bad thing, but rather an opportunity to grow, to become stronger, to learn something new, to have more compassion for yourself. So versus that, oh, it's bad. This thing that happened to me is a bad thing. It's more of oh, okay, well, this is showing up to teach me something. Mm-hmm. And how can I use that at the same time, working on that mindset shift, which it does take a little work. It takes a little bit of attention.
It's interesting. I did a talk a couple weeks ago about on being, what kind of mom are you to yourself when you're working out? And so we're going to segue into wellness here and working out, and your thoughts about that. And I brought up the example of the Tonya Harding mom. If anybody has seen the movie Tonya or seen, you know the story. But
I do. Yeah.
Have you seen the movie?
I did not. No.
So it was just curious. This past year, Tonya Harding's mother, and she's the mother that we all have in our head when we're working at, you're not doing good enough. She's better than you. Get back out there, oh, you can't succeed at this. We all do that to ourselves in workouts, right? It's you're looking around the room, you're comparing yourself, and you have that mother that lives in your head. Maybe, I'm not saying, I know she lives in my head for sure, she's there. And then you talk about this other mother that we may not even have, even if it's our own mother, it's because the question was, what would your mom actually say to you in your workout? Would your mom say, she's so much better than you? Hopefully your mom didn't, right? Your mom would, come on, honey, you got this. You did a great job, and we don't really do that to ourselves when we're working out. And we don't do it to ourselves in our lives generally, but I'm so curious about this other voice that's even a newer voice, like asking ourselves those questions when we do something well, even that languaging that you just, we're talking about, it's Dr. Dweck.
Yeah, Carol Dweck.
Carol Dweck. Yeah. Even starting that new language for ourselves, I find fascinating. But I just wanted to touch on that because I thought that was really an interesting point, like just the new words we can use with ourselves as an adult.
Totally. Yeah.
Parenting or the choosing the type of parenting you want to do for yourself to help you be resilient, right? So I want to segue into wellness. And I'm just curious because I obviously am in the fitness, movement, wellness field. Do you think, are there aspects of having a good wellness routine, can that help you be more resilient?
For sure, definitely. I row, indoor water rowing, and it has definitely helped my resiliency in the world. So to me, anytime you work on yourself and you make an improvement in an area, it trickles out to every single area. So if you're working on your body, it's going to make you a better mom. It's going to make you a better entrepreneur. As long as we're doing some work moving forward, like we're always growing and changing. And anytime you can put a certain amount of stress on your body and then pause and come back and heal from that stress, you're growing. We're growing. Stress is not inherently a bad thing. Too much stress all the time, constantly, like that is not good. But stressing I just did a whole bunch of lunges today that kicked my booty. But that it hurt. And then I took a break and I stopped and the pain stopped. And that grows your brain to say, oh, I can handle a little bit of pain and it'll stop. And it builds up that same muscle, I think, in your mind as well as your body.
Okay, so this is a really good question because I want to apply this again to the body and to how we approach our workouts, because that's, I think the way that we approach our workouts obviously is the way we approach our life. And we are so disconnected from our bodies generally as a 2018 culture. And the more we learn how to manage stress when it comes to working out, the more we learn how to love that activity, the better off we're going to be, right? I 100%. I'm curious too if working out causes any chemical reactions. I'm sure it does, hormonal chemical reactions that actually your ability to be resilient, right? So that plays. So you bring up a really challenging point for me that I often struggle with. How do you know when the stress is good? Like you just said, not all stress is bad, and when it's too much. Because I go into these classes, and again, I'm going back to the workout world, and people push themselves and push themselves and push themselves, and then they rebel. And they recover by eating too much or, being exhausted all day. They never have an ample amount of energy. And then they go back. It's like a pleasure pain cycle. Okay?
Yeah.
So my question is in just resiliency sort of theory, practices, you talked about creating the right kind of stress to recover from and so how do we know when we're doing what
honestly, it's an experiment. It's noticing okay, I pushed myself too far. Across the board, if you are listening to anybody else tell you what to do and you're doing it because you want to make them happy, but your body is hurting, that is, so I really like a trauma-informed approach to exercise, which is how does that feel? If it feels correct for you, go into this pose, rather than do this. And then someone pushing your body into a position that so there's no easy answer, because yes, sometimes it is helpful to have someone stretch us deeper. At the same time, it's bringing an awareness to like, either that felt good or like that felt really bad for me. And so, the next time if it's the same teacher, you go into that class, you could say like, I don't need to have anyone, adjust me. Like, I know my limits and I'll put myself. So it's a matter of becoming aware. But first, sometimes you have to become aware by having a experience that kind of sucks.
Yep.
So, it's always asking yourself, like, how'd that make me feel? How was that teacher? How did we connect? And then if you're in pain after, you're like, oh, okay, I went too far. How can I pull it back next time? So it's never about perfection. I guess that's the bottom line. It's an experiment. Like, we don't know. Try a little harder. See how you feel after. If after you're like, oh my gosh, like I feel so strong today, like that was great. So then maybe you go like a little bit farther next time. Maybe you do one more, 100 or something. Like try to push yourself, but not to the point of exhaustion, or that you're trying to do it because you're going to please somebody else. Do it because of your own internal sense of feeling good.
And that is such a theme for me. And I talk about, that was one of, I feel like this week or last week, I talked about being a badass in a way that is opposite of what you think a badass is. And that badass is you authentically saying, no, thank you. I'm glad that everybody else in the class is doing it that way. It takes a lot of courage to be, but that's where you value resiliency over, you value your own level of energy, right? Like keeping that level of energy in a nice place over what somebody else is saying to you. And I think that just ties right into what you were saying about being your authentic self. And I love that. And the term, what is correct for you? You used that with me years ago. I worked with Jen years ago, and she had asked me like, is that correct for you? And it was such a funny term because I don't use the term correct because it's like right and wrong, but there is like a right thing for you in that moment. So last couple minutes, I just want to ask, this is like a practical thing. Maybe you can help us. I'm going to give an example. So one of the things that I know my clients deal with mentally in terms of resiliency is they might be like up one day and then the next day they're down and out and they don't quite know how to get back on track throughout the day. And I have a few clients I'm working with on like putting in your mindfulness practice during the day, but some struggling with, but they can't get back on that track. So I want to, if you can tell us two things that we can do today or on a day where we do drop out, we feel like we've hit the bottom, there's no extra, cushioning there for us. What can we do? What two practices can you give us?
Yeah. So my go-to is a 15-minute meditation, like a napping meditation. So I allow myself to sleep. If I'm done, there's nothing more I can do, I'm exhausted. My energy type, I don't have consistent energy to go. And so I have to honor that cycle of work and rest. And it's not going to be the same as everybody else's. So I, have done a lot of work around being okay with that. So having that space of trust that it will come back if you allow yourself to pause. And if you allow yourself that break to say, okay, I'm going to sit here and read for 20 minutes. I'm going to take a nap. I will, maybe it's a blood sugar, thing where it's 3 p.m. Like you need a little like juice or something to boost your energy. So, I would say one notice is there a theme of when it's happening? Is there something consistently that is going on that you can look at? And always nap. Sleep is always my number one thing. Like for moms, like sleep in the lane, waiting to pick up your kids, like whatever you got to do, like a 30-minute nap, not like 4 hours in the middle of the day and you won't sleep, but like mini power naps.
That is so perfect. So where can we find you, Jen? Thank you so much. This has been such great information. What's your website?
Yeah, so it's The Mindful Family. It's www.themindfulfamily.com. You can get a free human design chart, free download on burnout, free quiz to find out if you're burned out, So lots of good
Love
stuff.
it. Just such a pleasure. Thank you. This will be recorded and on my page, and we can share it on your page. Thank you for this, and we
Bye. Thanks for having me. Okay.